Hello and welcome. I'm Raghav, and today we are going to create a complete step-by-step project for Ansible. So this is going to be a complete beginner's hands-on, and you can follow along with me. In this session, we are going to set up a Ansible controller machine. Then we will set up Ansible host machines. We will set up multiple host machines, and then we will make connection between the controller and the host machines, and then we will add the host file and the playbook file on the controller machine, and then we will run the playbook so that we can control and configure the host machines. This is going to be very easy and very interesting. I will go step by step and I will start from scratch, so do not worry if you are a complete beginner, and you will also find all the notes, all the links in the description of this video. So before we start the practical steps, let us see what exactly we are going to do. We are going to create three virtual machines, and here we are going to make one of the virtual machine as Ansible controller and the other two machines as Ansible hosts. And on the Ansible controller, we will install Ansible and we will create hosts file and playbook file. In the earlier session, we have already seen in Ansible, or the machine where we install Ansible, we create two files. The host file has the information about the hosts, like their IP addresses or domain names, so that we know what hosts to connect to, and the playbook file has the instructions to configure the host machines or to run these instructions on the host machines. So we will have a connection made between the Ansible controller machine and the Ansible host machines via SSH, and this is exactly what we are going to do in this demo. Now, for the machines we are going to use Ansible controller and Ansible hosts, we are going to use Linux machines, and this is what generally we will do in real world. All these servers setup and everything we normally do on Linux and Unix systems, and we do not use Windows or Mac operating system for all this. So that is exactly what we are going to do, and do not worry, I will tell you step by step how to create these Linux virtual machines and then how to connect to them. So here you can use any Linux machines. If you already have any Linux systems with you, you can use them, or you can use any cloud platforms like AWS to set up Linux machines. In fact, I had a tutorial on this. Let me search uh, setting up or creating. If you search for creating AWS Linux by my name, you should get that tutorial, and yes, here it is, creating free Linux on AWS and connecting from Windows and Mac operating system. So this video you can watch. I will also keep a link for this in the description of this video. So if you want to use AWS, you can use that. Now in this particular demo, I'm going to use Vagrant to create these Linux virtual machines. Vagrant is completely free and open source tool that we can use to create and manage virtual machines. And if you have never worked with Vagrant and you do not know anything about Vagrant, do not worry. It will hardly take you 20 to 30 minutes to get started with Vagrant. And here you can watch my tutorial. If you want to use Vagrant, you can go to my channel, Automation Step by Step, and here you will find a playlist for Vagrant, and here you just need these first two tutorials to get started with Vagrant. The first one is a theoretical session on what is Vagrant and how it works, and the second one is the hands-on, getting started with hands-on. So it will hardly take you 30 minutes to get started with Vagrant, and very quickly you will be creating your virtual machines using Vagrant, and it is very simple. So you can use Vagrant or any other cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, etc., or if you already have your Linux systems, you can use them. And in any case, whatever Linux systems or whatever platforms you use, the process that we are going to see is going to remain same for uh, in any case. So you can just follow this, whatever be your systems are from or whatever your platforms you are using. All right, so this is what we are going to do. So in our demo, in my case, what I'm going to do is, this is my local machine where I am working. This is my host machine. Here I am going to install Vagrant, and then using Vagrant I am going to create these three virtual machines, and then we are going to make one of them as controller, the other two as hosts, and then we are going to do the Ansible demo here. Okay, so let's get started, and first let us see how do we create and set up Ansible controller. Now I have already installed Vagrant on my system, so just in case you want to use Vagrant, you can watch the tutorial and install Vagrant, and it is very simple. You just have to go to Vagrant website and download the exe and install it, and we will also need VirtualBox for that. That also is covered in the tutorial. So here, if you are on Windows, you can go to your command line to run all the commands that we are going to use now. You can go to command line, and once you have installed Vagrant, if you say Vagrant hyphen hyphen version, it should show you the Vagrant version. Now if you are on Windows, you can either use your normal command line, and when you type cmd, we see the command prompt. You can start from here, or you can also run as administrator, but otherwise it should work if you run it as any user. And you can use command prompt, or the other option is for Windows you can also use PowerShell, Windows PowerShell. Here also we can run all the commands, and we can do everything that we are going to see in the demo. Or one other option is, a good option for Windows is, once you install Git on your Windows system, you will get Git bash, and this is a really good command line terminal. Here you can see it has colors as well, plus it looks like a Linux or a Mac terminal. So here also I can run the commands, and you can see it looks better. So you can use any of these command lines if you're on Windows. And as of now my local system is Mac, so I'm going to go to my terminal. I pressed command space on my keyboard to bring up the spotlight search, and I started typing terminal and then hit enter to open the terminal app. And here I will just say Vagrant hyphen hyphen version, and I have Vagrant set up and installed on my local system. So here the first step is we have to install VirtualBox and Vagrant on your local machine, which we have done, and you can watch my tutorial if you need any help with this step. Then we will do step number 2, where we will go to our terminal or command line, and we will navigate to the directory where we want to set up the Ansible project. So let us first create that folder where we want to set up our Ansible project. So you can go to any location on your local system. I will go to my desktop, and here I have a projects folder. I will go here, and I'm going to create a new folder here, and I will call it as Ansible demo. You can name it anything, and I will open it. Okay, and I will go to this folder location on my terminal. So I will say cd to change directory, and desktop projects Ansible demo. And if I say ls, if you are on Windows you can say dir to see the content of the folder. On Mac or Linux I will say ls, and as of now it is empty. Now step number 3 is, within our project folder we are going to create two folders, one folder for Ansible controller and the other one for Ansible hosts. For now we will create the Ansible controller folder. You can create it manually by going here and then create a new folder, or from terminal I can say mkdir, that is make directory, and I will say Ansible controller, and you can see the folder is created here. Then step number 4 is, we will go to this folder from the terminal, and now here we are going to create a Vagrant file by running the command vagrant init. So this is the command vagrant init we use to create a Vagrant file, And if we want to use a specific operating system or a specific virtual machine, we can also give the name of the machine. So here I will say, I will first go to this folder Ansible Controller, and I'm pressing tab to autocomplete. So you can see I said CD, that means change directory space, and I started typing ANSI and pressed tab. It auto completed the name, and now I am inside this Ansible Controller, this folder. Alright, now here for Vagrant, I can just go and search for Vagrant boxes, and it will take me to this link vagrantup.com. Here I can search for any virtual machine that I want to create or any box I want to create. So I can say CentOS, and I will get all these CentOS machines. I can go to any one of these and get the name. So this is what I can use to create this machine, and that is why it is so easy, so straightforward, and so simple to create and manage virtual machines with Vagrant, and that is the reason I'm using it. And anyways, it is completely free and open source. So I will say here Vagrant init CentOS 7, and you will see as I run this command, it will generate a Vagrant file here. So you can see a Vagrant file has been generated here. If I open this file, you can open it with any text editor or notepad. So you can see this is the file, or I will open it with a better editor. You can use Sublime Text, Notepad++, or in my case, I can use, we have Visual Studio Code. This will show us in a better format. So you can see this is our Vagrant file, and here I'm going to remove all these comments. This is in Ruby. This is Ruby format. So you can see here we have got our virtual box, a box for our virtual machine which will be running CentOS operating system. Okay, now we will edit the Vagrant file and add the lines or add the data to provision Ansible on the virtual machine. So you can see this is what we will be adding as a provisioner script to install Ansible on our virtual machine. So when we say Vagrant up, based on whatever we have in our Vagrant file, it will create and configure the virtual machine. And here, let me get it from my notes. I already have this notes here. So I'll just copy this from here and add it here. So basically here what we are doing is we are defining the name for this virtual machine as Ansible Controller, and then we are saying it will be using CentOS 7 operating system, and then we are also adding the provisioning script where we are installing Ansible on this virtual machine. Now I will keep all these data of the Vagrant file in the notes, so you can copy it from there. Just make sure that this is a valid Ruby file and a valid syntax. Save it, and to check if it is a valid file, you can just run the command from the folder where it is. You can say Vagrant validate, and it is all fine. Just in case there are any issues, like example I add one extra and here which is not required, and I again run the command Vagrant validate, you can see here it is showing me a syntax error. So this is good to validate the file before running it. Also, you can, if you find any syntax issues or Ruby formatting issues, you can format it here, or you can always search for online Ruby formatters, and then you can check your Vagrant file and format it. So if I just copy my content of the Vagrant file, paste it here and say format, so it is formatted, there are no errors. Alright, so this I have done. I will now go back to my terminal, and now I will run the command vagrant up to create and start the virtual machine. So I will say vagrant up and hit enter, and this will start the process of creating the virtual machine, and then it will also add Ansible on the virtual machine. And this process can take some time based on the size of the machine, the size of the box, the network speed you have, and the configuration of your machine, the processors, etc. Based on that, it can take some time. So let's just wait for this to get completed. And during this session, if you are facing any issues, you can let me know in the comment section or the Q&A section. I read all my comments and I will try to answer you as soon as I can. And the process, although I'm doing all this on a Mac system, I have already shown you the options for Windows. You can use command line, PowerShell, or Git Bash, and the commands we are going to use are going to remain the same. If you are using Git Bash, it will be exactly the same because all the Linux commands work there as well. The commands that we use on Mac work on Git Bash directly. So should be fine if you are using Git Bash. Otherwise, anything you are using on Windows should work fine. So you can see it has generated and made the virtual machine up, and now it is running the provisioner script where we are installing Ansible. So let this process complete. Alright, so I believe it has downloaded. Yeah, it is downloading the packages, and now it is installing. Alright, I believe the process is complete, and now I can run the command. I will clear my terminal and run the command vagrant status, and this will show me the status of my virtual machine. And you can see the virtual machine Ansible controller is up and running. Also, if you have VirtualBox GUI, you can also check this because we are using VirtualBox with Vagrant. So you can see this machine Ansible controller is up and running now. Alright, so we have done this step number 6. Step number 7 is once the VM is up, we can connect to the virtual machine using vagrant SSH command. So I will say vagrant SSH and hit enter, and this should connect to the virtual machine. That means I will go inside the virtual machine. So I am now inside the virtual machine, and you can see I can run all these commands here. Now I can also check if Ansible is installed on this system by checking Ansible -- version. So I will say Ansible -- version, and if you get something like this, the Ansible version and all these details, that means Ansible is installed. So that means our Ansible is installed properly on this virtual machine that we are going to make it as a controller machine. So we have done this part, and also as we have learned earlier, Ansible is agentless. That means we do not have to install Ansible on the host machines. We just need to install Ansible on the controller machine, and we have to connect with the host machines using SSH. So we have done this part of installing Ansible on the controller machine. Okay, now within the controller machine, we are going to create a folder called Ansible project, and here we are going to create our host file and the playbook file. So I will say, let me clear the terminal, and if I say ls, as of now we don't have anything here. If I check the directory I'm inside home vagrant. So I will say mkdir Ansible project, you can name it anything. And now if I say Ansible project folder is here, I will go inside this folder. I am pressing tab on my keyboard, and as of now this is empty. So I'm going to create a file for hosts. This file will have the information about the host machines that we are going to control, like their IP addresses, and this will be used while we run the playbook to connect to the host machines. We have not yet created the host machines, but that's fine. Let us just create the file and keep it for now. I will say touch hosts, and the file is created here. All right. Similarly, we will create one more file called playbook.yaml, and as of now we will keep it empty, and later on we will add the details here. So I will say touch playbook.yaml, and you can see now I have both of these files created here, and as of now these are empty. So here we have completed the process of creating a virtual machine and installing Ansible so that we can make it as a Ansible controller. We have also added the files for Ansible hosts and playbook. As of now these are empty. So now let us go and create some virtual machines that we will make it them as Ansible hosts. So this part is done. If you want, you can take a screenshot of this screen and keep it handy with you, and you can go through it multiple times. Let us now go to the steps for creating Ansible host machines. So again, I will come out of this machine first, of my controller machine. I will say exit, and now I am on my local system under the Ansible controller folder. So I will go one folder back. I will say cd space dot dot, and now I am in my Ansible demo folder, which is my this folder, Ansible demo. I'm going to create another folder here for Ansible hosts. So I will say mkdir host machines or Ansible host, whatever you want. So I will say mkdir, I will say Ansible hosts, and I will go inside this folder. As of now it is empty. Now I'm going to create another Vagrant file here by running the same command, Vagrant init centos 7. So I will say Vagrant init centos 7. You can also just run Vagrant init and then add the details for the operating system and box details later on. And this is here. Let me again open it in my VS Code. So this is the file. Most of the things are commented out. And now I will edit this Vagrant file and add the details to set up two Vagrant machines. So I will add two machines here. One I will call as web server or web, and the other one is for DB server. I will call it as DB, and then I will also do port forwarding. So this all, just in case you find it a little difficult, all this I have covered in very detail in the Vagrant tutorials. So let me show you what I'm doing. I have it here. I'm just going to copy it from here, and I will paste it here. So this is what I have. So here we are saying that the image we want is CentOS 7. Then these are two virtual machines we are setting up. The first one, we are defining the name as web. We are saying the host name will be web, and we are setting a private IP so that we can connect to it from our other machine, that is our controller machine. The same thing we are doing here. This one we are calling it as DB, and we are setting a private network. We are also doing port forwarding. Port forwarding means we are mapping port 80 of the virtual machine to port 8080 of our host machine, that is our local machine. And just in case port 8080 is busy or it's occupied by some other application, we are saying autocorrect. That means use some other port in this range, 8000 to 9000, in case 8080 is not available. And we are doing this so that if we create and run any application on the virtual machine on port 80, we should be able to access it from our host machine using port 8080. And that is exactly what we are going to do later in this tutorial, when we will have our playbook file. In the playbook file, we are going to have instructions to create, install and set up Apache web server on these machines, one of these machines or both of these machines. And then using our local system, using our browser, we should be able to access the server on port 8080. So that is why we have added this port forwarding as well here. And this is what our Vagrant file looks like. I will keep it in the notes as well, so you can copy it from there. So make sure you save this file. And now I will first say Vagrant validate, just to check if it is a valid Vagrant file and there are no problems here. So this is fine. Let me clear my screen. Now I will just say Vagrant up to create and start the virtual machines. And here we are creating and setting up two virtual machines. And you can now see how easy and straightforward it is to create virtual machines here using Vagrant. I just have to create the Vagrant file, add all the information. I can create multiple machines all at once and then also manage them using Vagrant commands. So let's wait, it will take some time based on the size of the machine, the box size, the network, everything. So it can take some time. Okay, so I think it is booting the machine. So this says it is booted and ready. I think one machine is done. Now it is doing the same for the other machine. And yes, it will now boot the machine. So waiting for machine to boot. This can take few minutes. During this process, if you face any errors or you see any error messages, you can always check. You can copy and go online and paste and see what exactly is the issue, and you can troubleshoot like that. You will always find a lot of solutions. I think this is done. I will clear my terminal and say Vagrant status. Sorry, it is Vagrant status. And let's see the status of the two virtual machines we have created. And yes, you can see web and db, and both are running, and VirtualBox is the VM provider here. With Vagrant we can use other providers as well. VirtualBox is most commonly used. It is free and open source and works directly with Vagrant. So if I see the GUI of VirtualBox, I should be able to see these new machines as well. So you can see this was controller, and now we have web and db also added and running here. So we are done with this step, and we have already checked Vagrant status, and now we can uh, connect to the machine saying Vagrant SSH and the machine name. In the earlier part, when we connected to our controller machine, we just had to say Vagrant SSH because there was no other machine there. That was the default machine, but here we have two, so we can also give the name of the machine. So I can say Vagrant SSH web, and let's see if it is able to connect to this machine. And yes, it is able to. I will exit, and now I will say Vagrant SSH DB, and yes, we are able to connect to this machine as well. So I will exit from here, and this completes the process of our host machines setup. So again, if you want, you can take a screenshot of the screen, keep it handy with you. Let us now move to the next part, where we will check the connection between controller and the host machines. So make sure all the three machines are up and running, the controller and the two host machines. They can be multiple host machines. If you want to try the demo with a single host machine, even that is fine. Now you can run the command IP addr on each of the host machines. In fact, each machine, all the machines, controller and host, to check that they have the IP address in the same range. So they should have IP address in the same range like 192.168.33.x. so if you want, you can do that. So if I say vagrant SSH and I will say IP ADDR on this machine, IP ADDR, or you can say IP config, IF config, whatever works for you. You can go and check the IP here and should be the same range on all the machines. And then let me exit from here and let me let me open two terminals, two command lines, and on one of the command line I will go to the Ansible Controller folder, and on the other terminal I am pressing Command T to create a new tab of the terminal. So this is my new tab. Here I will go to Ansible Hosts folder. So this is my Ansible Controller folder and this is my Ansible Hosts folder here. Alright. So on the controller machine, we will run the command ssh keygen to generate a ssh key pair. So I am here on my Ansible controller. I will say Vagrant status just to check my virtual machine which is running on this Vagrant environment. So we normally call a folder which has a Vagrant file as a Vagrant environment. So here we have two Vagrant environments, one for controller and the other one for hosts. So here I will say Vagrant SSH to go inside the machine, the controller machine we have, and here I will say SSH keygen. Let me clear the terminal and I will say SSH hyphen keygen, and it will start the process of creating. It says enter file in which to save. So if you press enter, it will go to the default location, which is this. So I'll just press enter. I don't need a paraphrase or passphrase. I will say enter, enter again, and yes, this is done. And if you go to the folder which is your home Vagrant, or you can just say to go to the home directory, we can use this symbol and say dot ssh and say ls. You can see these files are added here. Now we have already checked this. We have gone to our .ssh folder and checked that the keys are created. Now we will copy these public key to the host machines. So the public key which has the extension .pub, this one, we are going to copy and paste it on our host machine. For that we can either do manually or run this command ssh copy id and the host machine user at the rate and its IP address. So we know the IP address of the machines. We have already given these IP addresses. So this is for web, this is for DB machine. So we can say ssh hyphen copy hyphen id, Vagrant is their user, and then at the rate their IP address. So let me try this, otherwise we will do the manual way. I'll just clear this. So I will say SSH and I will say copy hyphen id, and then I will say Vagrant at the rate and the IP which is this one .10, and let us see. So maybe it is trying to connect. Let's just wait. I think it's taking some time. I will press Ctrl C to stop this process. Let me try to do this on the other machine which has this IP. And yes, I think this is happening. I will say yes, but no, it says permission denied. It was not able to connect. So here it is not able to connect. So we may have to try the manual way of adding this. Okay, so the manual way will be we will copy the content of the public key and then we will paste it in the SSH authorized keys file in the host machine. So if you go to the host machine, so let me go here, I will say Vagrant status. This is my Ansible hosts folder, and if I say Vagrant SSH to, let us say, the web machine, again some issue, let me try to SSH to the DB machine, and yes, this is done. And here if I go to the home directory and .ssh folder and see the content, you can see we have authorized keys here. And if I see the data of this, let me clear my terminal. If I say cat authorized keys, you can see this is what it looks like. This is the data. So I will copy, so I will say cat, this is on my controller machine. I'm just going to see the content of my public key. I am just going to copy it from here, and on the host machine I will open the authorized keys file in a editor. So I can say vi authorized keys, and when I press I on my keyboard I go in the insert mode, and then here I'm just going to paste the public key, and then now I'm pressing escape on my keyboard, colon WQ, that means write and quit, exclamation mark, and enter. Now if I say cat authorized keys, you can see our public key from the controller machine is now added here, and now I can try to connect to the machine. So as of now I have just added this on my DB machine, not on my web machine. I was facing some challenge in connecting to it, but that's fine. If I again try to connect to that, let me just try again if I can connect to the machine. I'm pressing up arrow just to go to the, let me exit from here. I'm pressing up arrow to go to the earlier commands. Vagrant SSH web. So it is taking some time. I will not wait for now. Let me just go to the next step. We are anyways able to connect to the one of the host machines. So now to check if we are able to connect to the host machine from the controller machine, we can say SSH vagrant at the rate IP of the machine. So I will go to my controller machine, and here I will say SSH, and the user of the host machine is Vagrant. Just to check the user, you can always say, you can go to the machine and you can check the user is here Vagrant, or you can also say who am I, it will give you the value. So we are saying Vagrant at the rate, and the IP of that machine is this one, and I hit enter, and you can see I am now on my DB machine, and this I have connected from my controller machine. All right, so you can see all this is working. So if I just go to or create something here, I will say mkdir folder, new folder, and this is created. If I now go and check here, you can see the new folder is created here as well. So we are now able to connect our host machine from our controller machine. Alright, so this we are able to make the connection. Again, if you want, you can take a screenshot here. Now, we will add the data in the host and the playbook file on our controller machine. So again, I will go here on my controller machine. I will say Vagrant SSH to connect to the controller virtual machine. And here we had created this folder Ansible project, and we created these two files, hosts and playbook.yaml. Now in the hosts file, we will add the IP of our host machines that we want to control or manage through Ansible. So I will say, to edit, I will say vi and the name of the file, which is hosts. I will press I on my keyboard to go in the insert mode, and I have to add these uh, data. I'm just going to copy it from here. I have added it here, and I'm going to copy it from here. So this is our web server, this is our DB server. We can also give domain names if we have. For here the IPs will work. I will press escape on my keyboard, then colon WQ, write and quit, exclamation, and if I now check my file, I have got this data added here. Alright, now I can also use the Ansible command Ansible all -m ping -i hosts to test the connection. So let me do that. I will say Ansible -m, and then I have to use all -m and then ping -i, that is I have to give the inventory, where is my inventory, and this is the file hosts. I will hit enter, and let's see if we are able to connect, and yes, we are able to connect. And as of now, we were able to add the public key only on the DB machine, and that is why you can see it is saying success for the DB machine but failure for the other machine. So which is fine. It's good that we know we have both of these options here to see. Now again, we will edit the playbook file, and we will add the instructions whatever we want to do on the host machines. So for example, we want to install Apache web server on our host machines. So let us see what to do here. I will say vi playbook.yaml, and here this is the example of a playbook file that will install web server on this particular host. I have also copied it here so that I can directly copy and add it. So it is here. Just that the hosts we will change from web servers to DB servers because we are not able to connect to the web servers. So that is one thing we will change here. So here, if I see this IP I have given to the group DB servers, so this is what I'm going to use here so that we get a success result. It is able to connect and then install this. I will press I to go to insert mode and add this, but this is not coming in the right format. Let me just quit. I will go again. I will say vi playbook I, and I will have to either format it using a YAML formatter online. So I can go to, this is a YAML file, YAML formatter. So I'll put it here, format and beautify. Looks like some error. Let me check quickly. I think there are some extra spaces. Let me try again, and yes, after removing the spaces it is looking fine. Yeah, this is fine. I can just copy it from here, and now I will go to my, again I will just quit here. I will say quit so that there is nothing added, and I will again go to my playbook, go to insert mode by pressing I, and yes, this looks fine now. It's just that I will have again to change it to DB servers, and looks fine. I will press escape colon write and quit, and if I check my playbook file now, this is fine. Alright, so this I have done. We have done step number 4. Now we can try to run our playbook by using the command Ansible Playbook -i to give the location of the inventory file which has information about the hosts, which is hosts, and then the playbook file, that is playbook.yaml. So I will say here, let me clear this. I will say Ansible Playbook -i, and I will say hosts. My host file is also on the same directory, and then I will just use the playbook file which is playbook.yaml. Okay, it is Ansible playbook -i hosts playbook.yaml, and I will hit enter, and you can see it has started running the instructions, which is connecting first to the host machine which we have given DB servers, and its IP is this one. So it has taken the data from the hosts file and connecting to the machine, and then it will start the task, that is install Apache as we have given in our playbook file. And once it is up, we will go and check in our virtual machine that we have made as DB server. We will check if Apache is installed and running there, and then we can also check it from our local system using port 8080 as we have done port forwarding. Now this process can take some time, so you can just wait and let the process complete. Now one more thing, all these virtual machines that we have created, these will be taking the space from your local machine. So if I just go to VirtualBox and show you the size, that is memory size 512 MB for all these machines, although we can change it in Vagrantfile, but this is what is the base size. So all this size is being taken from your local machine, so make sure that you have some good space, at least 4-5 GB on your local system, so that you don't face any issues here. And you can see it has installed. Now it is starting Apache and looks like everything is okay. So now just to check, I will go inside my DB server machine. I am already here, and I will say curl localhost, and you can see this gives me the page for the Apache web server. That means it is fine. I can also say telnet local host on port 80. Telnet is command not found. I will have to add it. I will say sudo yum install telnet. Now the command to install can vary. For some Linux it is apt-get install. For CentOS it is yum install. So you can check that based on your operating system, the distribution of Linux. Yes, it is now done. So if I again run the command telnet localhost 80, you can see it is connected. That means it is running. I will press Ctrl C to come out. And now if I go on my local machine and say http :// localhost, or I can also give the IP and then say port 8080. So let us see if we get the Apache server here, as we have done port forwarding. So although it is not coming, so if you see here We did this port forwarding from port 80 of the VM to port 8080, and we also did auto correction. But let's just wait. Okay, so this is taking some time, which is fine, but we are able to check that we are able to install Apache web server using the playbook on the host machine, and it is installed and running here. All right. I think this is also stuck. If I try to see here, let me try to open a new tab, and I will say Vagrant SSHDB. Alright, there's some issue connecting with the machine. I will say Vagrant reload to restart the machine, and then I can again run the playbook script and then check it again. So this will restart the machine, and it is shut down. It will start it again, boot it up. Okay, so this should now start it. And in Vagrant, the folder where you have your Vagrant file is by default synced or shared with the virtual machine, a folder called Vagrant on the virtual machine. So this is also very handy if you want to share any files between your host system and the virtual machine using that you have created using Vagrant. You can put anything in your folder having the Vagrant file, and it will be by default shared. Okay, so I think there was some issue with the port. You can see it is saying fixed port collision from port 80 to 8080, now on port 8001. So maybe that is maybe the issue, that we were not able to get it on port 8080. So that's fine. Let it be up, and then we will check it again. Okay, I am also shutting down my web machine host, the machine that we are calling as web, the host machine. There may be that issue that we have used the same port forwarding for both the machines. So maybe a issue we should have used these port forwarding separately with separate ports for both of these machines. But for now that is okay. I am shutting down my web machine, and now let us see if this comes up, the DB machine, and then we will check again if it is able to run the Apache server and we are able to get it on our local system. Alright, if I check Vagrant status now, so you can see now it is running. And now if I check on my local machine, if I go to local host and port 8001 and check, yes, you can now see, now we are able to see the Apache server running here, which is running on our virtual machine, which is a Ansible host. So we are able to do these steps, and we are also able to access our application, that is our Apache web browser, by navigating to the IP address and accessing it from our local system. All right, so now you can see this is what we have done here. We have created these three virtual machines. We have used Vagrant. You can use any option to create the virtual machines. One of the virtual machines we made as Ansible controller by installing Ansible here, and we also added the host and the playbook files here, and then we used Ansible to control these two host machines. In the demo we were able to use one of the host machines, but you now know we can control multiple host machines using Ansible. Now uh, if we install Ansible on the same machine where we install Vagrant, we can also use Ansible as a provisioner in Vagrantfile. So if you see here, uh, in Vagrantfile we can add provisioners, we can use shell scripts, and we can add our commands that will be run on the virtual machine once it is created. So we can directly use Ansible as a provisioner in the Vagrant file by adding something like this. You can see this like in this way. We can say config.vm.provision. Here we set config.vm.provision shell, but if we have Ansible on the same system, we can say config.vm.provision Ansible, and then we can give the location of our playbook file. In this case, if we are giving a direct name, that means the playbook file should be in the same folder where we have our Vagrant file, and also the hosts file which have the information about the host machine should also be on in the same folder, and then it will directly run the Ansible playbook file, the instructions in the playbook file on the machine that is created. So this is also one of the options that you can try. So please do hands on and let me know if you face any issues, and I hope this was very easy and very interesting and very useful. I will see you soon. Thank you for watching and never stop learning.